Hey there. So I have some comments on what I'm watching right now, which is an honest conversation with Sadhguru. And this is on Dr. K's channel called HealthyGamerGG. I've talked about this channel on my channel before. Hi, my name is Julie. And I was pretty excited to watch this actually. I'm halfway through, so I don't know the whole conversation yet, but I just kind of gotten to a place where I wanted to speak what I think in response to what I've heard so far. Because, of course, as I listen, like the human mind is relational. So I relate what they're saying to things that I know about, things that I've experienced in my life, right? So I can place the knowledge within the context of my own wisdoms and knowledge to understand where I stand on what is being said. So I've been able to follow along just fine with everything that's being said. It's an interesting thing to watch where Sadhguru seems to really, instead of directly answering questions, he's always challenging Dr. K's view, which is interesting because Dr. K mostly agrees with him. It's just, one sec, I got a cough. It's like Dr. K is an intellectual and he wants to he's analyzing some things maybe. He wants to share with his audience what the nitty-gritty roots of how to use that knowledge practically is, right? And I don't think that what Sadhguru is saying is not useful. I'm just noticing this little bit of, I don't know, Sadhguru comes off as a little, I really like both of these men and the knowledge that they've shared over the years. And maybe I had Sadhguru up on too much of a pedestal and now he's knocking himself off for me a little bit. I'm not sure. Don't get me wrong, I appreciate all the wisdoms he shares and even the perspectives he's sharing in this talk. I just would have liked him to be a little bit more gentle with Dr. K or just a little bit more direct in answering questions, but that's not how it's going. Anyway, that aside, that is not really what I wanted to comment on. It's just interesting for me to notice this about these gentlemen who are talking. But what I was noticing is, with respect to, me and where I've been and what I've been doing, he was talking about how basically the root of whatever is ailing people these days is compulsion. And he's talking about how things are happening in a cycle. So you've heard me talk about loops, loops, and how to relieve ourselves from those loops with the formula that I share. And so he is also saying that things are happening that way and that it's like everyone's got a certain, compulsion, and their compulsion is unique to them. But that's basically what it is. It's a compulsion. And what that is indicative of, this is my words, not his, is that unconsciousness, that subconscious loop of whatever we've been acting out, whatever we've decided, whatever we've misunderstood, whatever we haven't yet processed through, just compelling us to relive it again and again and again, or cope in a certain way again and again and again to avoid it again and again and again. It's so I felt like a little bit inspired to talk about this because I like putting things in simple terms. I really like when I can distill things down, and I feel like I spent the last 8 months working on this app that is just about released. Like I did release a beta version, and now the app is down for some maintenance and stuff. So it'll be back up in a few days or so. I'm going to try to optimize it for tablets and some other things. But anyway, the app that I created is basically a self-help tool, and it contains all the wisdoms and knowledges that I used in order to help myself heal. I'll say it heal, but basically, according to this definition that Sadhguru is offering, what I did was I alleviated the compulsions. That's exactly what I did. It's a nice way to distill it down, I think, because it's so simple to say that. I was compulsively acting in certain ways on different topics all the time, and what I did was alleviate myself from those compulsions. Now, the interesting thing I think that I want to recognize is that I installed a compulsion to do that. So it's human nature, right? We can be compulsed to repetitively repeat things. Like that is something that we're capable of. He's saying that's kind of like a lower way of being, that humans have graduated past that, that we don't have to be tied to that. And I agree with that completely. And I've talked about that in another video as well, where I said that I programmed myself to do my shadow work, but that I was at some point I found myself at a point where I was like, oh, I can't like live under this program of constantly doing my shadow work anymore. Like I have to actually like live my life. Like, my whole compulsion can't be to just heal, because I was at the end of like what needed to be done, and I was at a place where I could certainly start living again. And I noticed that was like a kind of a tough transition for me, right? Because being compulsed to self-heal was fulfilling a lot of stories that I had in my mind about myself, what it means about me, that I'm willing to heal, that I'm doing the work, that, it meant I was productive. It meant that I was doing something important and worthwhile, and that it was okay to prioritize that for myself, and that it didn't need to make sense to other people, and, that I had a lot of work to do, so I didn't have to kind of engage in some other things in life as much. And, those kind of things, when it came to the time where it was like, okay, well, now this pattern that I installed in order to do all the healing work, now this pattern is going to hold me back if I don't free myself from it too. Because there are things I need to be doing other than my shadow work, like, exercise and making friendships and, things that make life fulfilling, things that I feel excited about. So, I have been in process of transitioning out of that shadow work, and I noticed actually when I look at the time period where I decided that I was not going to continue in the pattern of just constantly always doing shadow work, what happened was I dropped that pattern, and then I sort of got into a space where I wasn't even doing any shadow work for a while. And then it would be like a wound would like blindside me, and I was like, oh yeah, I got to do that again. I got to do that process again. And it took a minute for me to get into the space where I could live without that pattern, but still use that skill that I have developed when appropriate, when it was needed. So that was an interesting transition that I just most recently went through on this. But the app that I developed is actually set up to help others use or set up a program for themselves to do this work for themselves, to alleviate themselves from compulsions. It's like you're already able to be compulsed, so why not utilize that for yourself? It's like using the thing for a thing that actually works for you. I don't know. That wasn't a great sentence, but it's like, oh, being compulsed is the thing that we're trying to alleviate, but what if we use it to actually make sure that we alleviate all the other things until we get to the one needing to alleviate that? That's what I did anyway. And I like explaining it in those terms because it just helps me distill it down where it's very simple and straightforward. And also it might be more appealing for people to understand that I'm not asking them to just become something that they're not. I'm offering a tool. And a tool is used how you want to use it. You know, you got to make it your own, and you got to use it for where and how it's useful for you. So, yeah. And, you know, he was just, before I paused the video, he was most recently kind of talking about how when people are compulsed and they're rapid cycling, he didn't use those words, but that's my interpretation of what he said. When they're rapid cycling, you can look at that person and then you're like, oh, that person's messed up, right? Because you can see their cycle turning over and over. And whereas when you have a person whose cycle is more spread out, so you don't see it happening real time in front of you, you kind of think, oh, that person's more normal, you know? But it's just like what I've always said on my channel here is when something starts getting louder in order to get your attention, that means it's getting itself in front of you so that you can heal it. Like that means it's your time to, that means essentially that it's time for you to be done with that compulsion. So when it's rapid cycling for people, it actually means that they're in a very good, ripe position to make the choice to alleviate themselves from the compulsion, which is likely happening without a tool, you know, but the tool can help people if they want it, right? So I'm not saying that my tool is required for every person that lives on earth. I'm saying like some people might find this tool very useful. I do. I did. And I will continue to. Like I use my own app on a day-to-day basis because it's just so good. It's like having everything that I need in my pocket anytime I need it, because I've uploaded all of my Oracle decks that I made, and on my channel you can see that I've done, you know, hundreds of readings with the Oracle decks that I created and other cards. I didn't upload anyone else's decks besides my own that I created because I didn't want to do like copyright issues or anything like that. So the only thing on my app was the ones that I created, but they're pretty good, I must say. Like they got me pretty far as like trying to look for root causes within myself of where these compulsions came from and why they're there and what kind of stories I'm telling, what kind of things I'm trying to avoid, what feelings are there, you know. Yeah, so I just enjoyed watching this talk because I liked that it gave me an opportunity to distill down what this app actually can do or did or does for me and why I created it and what it's good for. So check it out if you're interested. It's at companionjulie.com. And the reason why I named it companionjulie.com, and it's meant to be like, I will be your companion through this process of, in Sadhguru's terms, alleviating your compulsions. And normally the terms that I would have used has been like looping or habits, you know. So, yeah. And the reason why I wanted to be like a companion to those who are going through that is because it can be scary for people. I did it on my own for the most part, but every once in a while I would have somebody to do a session with here and there over the years. I mean, it's like a handful of people in the 12 years I was doing it. So, you know, it was few and far between, but if I had had the ability to trust somebody to always be there or to like get it, to, you know, like if I had people around that could be supportive in the way that I wanted, it would have been nice. And so this app is kind of that. It's like the thing that I wished I had during my process, you know? And one of the things on the app is called Julie Cam, and that's where I'll go live periodically. And you can watch it on YouTube. You don't have to watch it on the app. And the app doesn't require a download as well. But eventually here I will have it set up so that you can download it probably next month. So probably in November you can download the app. But until then, and a week or so here, it's going to be just web-based. So you can visit it in your browser at companionjulie.com. And there's a lot of other different aspects of it, and some of what it does is there's a question and answer flow that takes you through the process of alleviating these compulsions. And to borrow from some terminology that Bashar uses, it's like this app, it can serve as your permission slip to process through and let go of things that may have been with you for a long time, may have been burdening you and limiting you. And I believe that what I've done is offer it in a gentle enough way that you sort of feel held in a container. And you really do need a safe container to do this work in. And even Sadhguru said that there are a lot of structures in our society that have been crumbling and there was nothing to replace them. And that's why I kind of felt a little bit like, not that he was directly validating me, but I felt a little bit validated by that because when I looked at my app, I was like, oh, my app is a structure. And so where structures that were once being used to help people regulate their emotional discomfort have crumbled, here is my app serving as a structure that can help people. And that having that structure of a container to do the work in is really, really valuable. You don't do the work in chaos usually, right? Sure, there's some things you have to do in chaos, like getting okay with the unknown. But for some of us, that's a later step. And when it's in front of you, that's when you do it. But the app does touch on that topic as well. So even having a structure doesn't prohibit you from exploring those topics by any means. Yeah. What else? Yeah. I'm excited to offer this tool because I think that a lot of people can kind of give up and feel hopeless and not believe that it's possible to stop being compulsive on every aspect of your life. And it is. And I wanted my app to be sort of a hand-holding through that process for those that are willing to give it a try or just have been doing it for a long time and could use a little bit of support. Just because it can be a long trek sometimes, depending on what you're alleviating compulsions from, right? It's like different people have different things going on. But the formula that I've included is sort of designed to relax a bunch of the aspects that can hold you back from the process of letting go of that compulsion. Okay. Maybe I will make a part 2 of this video if there's a lot that they say in the second half. But I also might fall asleep pretty quick here because it's late and I've had quite a day. I almost cut off the tip of my finger. And I also had a flat tire when I got up this morning. And there was a few other things that were also sort of, just like, oh, okay. Okay, we're doing this. Not things that I would have chosen to do, but things that I was doing anyway. So I'm tired. That is all for now. What do you think?